Statistics SA is confirming that our economy has now grown back to roughly the level it was before the pandemic. I must just tell you that doesn't necessarily mean that we've yet recovered all of the jobs that were lost during the pandemic. Stats SA is saying our economy grew by more than expected in the first quarter of this year, by 1.9% quarter-on-quarter. If you look at the year-on-year figures for that time, our economy grew by 3%. This is all about the pandemic, all about the way our economy bounced back from the lockdown. The Statistician-General is Risenga Maluleke. Mr. Maluleke, good afternoon to you, and thank you for your time. The numbers released today, slightly better than had been expected. It seems our economy may have bounced back quite quickly from the lockdown and the pandemic.
Stephen, let me mention that for us as Stats SA, there is no better or worse number. Our job is to make sure that we work with yourselves and through yourselves to reach out to the public in relation to the numbers. But let us look at what is happening. Other than the growth of 1.9%, which you have already alluded to, let us look at the real economy at 2015 constant prices, as we have previously announced. We are now sitting on the first quarter of 2021 at 1.153 trillion rands in terms of the size of our economy, the real economy. And that is equivalent to where we were in the fourth quarter 2018, where we had the highest level at that quarter, which was even better than this one that we are talking about, is even better than pre-COVID times. And remember, during COVID times, second quarter of 2020, we were sitting at about 952 billion, which was less than a trillion. So having gone beyond a trillion, and indeed showing levels of where we were higher than where we were pre-COVID times, it shows that our economy is recovering.
It's a major step. I mean, in a way, the graph on the screen now really shows it more accurately. At this stage, and I know that you released a quarterly labour force survey just last week, we may have now got the economy to the same size that it was, but have we got the same number of jobs that we had then, or have we still lost jobs compared to before the pandemic?
Well, what we have seen in this quarter, first quarter of 2021, is that we have remained constant on unemployment, 7.9 million people unemployed. But our unemployment rate went down a bit by 0.8 percentage points in terms of the fact that the number of those that were employed in the first quarter increased by 370,000 people. And in this regard, Stephen, if you look at it, manufacturing, which has shown a strongest growth this time and contributed a lot more. It grew by 4.9%, but it also contributed 0.6 of a percentage point. It actually, in the QLFS, which is a different source of data altogether, it created about 183,000 jobs. Although it's different sources and the GDP is seasonally adjusted, whereas the QLFS is not seasonally adjusted. But you can see that indeed the same industry has shown a strength in the GDP and has created more jobs from the QLFS. Yet we are not back to the same levels. Pre-COVID, our levels of people employed were 16 million. We are now sitting at 14.9 million, almost 15 million. So we are still 1 million people short. And in terms of movements of people into employment, it does take a bit of time, not only in South Africa, but generally even in other economies across the world.
The other sector that's been growing quite strongly over the last few years is agriculture, and particularly in certain areas like citrus farming. How important is that sector now?
Certainly, agriculture, as of now, especially in the area of horticulture, it did grow and contributed, but not as strong as manufacturing, finance and trade did in this quarter. However, let us understand that the structure of our economy is such that finance takes a larger chunk, about 24%. And then when you look at personal services, 17%, 13 or 14% in terms of trade, and agriculture sits at about 3%. So although agriculture is small in terms of its share to nominal GDP, but its contribution to employment usually surpasses its share, because its share of employment is about 5.7%.
So we have a lot moving in our economy, and I realize, as you say correctly, that for a statistician, no number is good and no number is bad. It is just the number. But it does seem that our economy has sort of bounced back. People were very worried that some of the loss would be completely permanent. I mean, if you look at the sectors that we're seeing now, the other one that we always talk about is mining in our economy, especially very recently.
Well, as of this quarter, mining in the previous quarter did show some growth, positive growth, but this time it showed negative growth and it contributed negatively. But on the other hand, it's because your platinum metal groups, also iron ore and gold, did show some decreases.
Statistician-General, sir, thank you very much, I nearly said in time, for your time. Risenga Maluleke is the Statistician-General.